Welcome back to another episode of the Find Food Freedom Podcast. This is your host, Sam Previtt, and I'm really excited that you're here. So today we're doing another rapid fire episode, truly because y'all keep coming in hot with these Q&A boxes on Instagram, and I'm loving it. And I am kicking myself for not doing this sooner because why not create podcast episodes that are directly from you? Like, you want to hear this information and I want to give it to you. So I'm excited to do so. And after I had a conversation with Grace, who is on our team, she's one of the team members at Find Food Freedom. And yesterday she was like, you are like that big sister and I want to like come to you for advice. And I thought that was so sweet. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is a very sweet thing to say. But she started bringing up these different topics that it's like, she was like, I would like to hear your advice on this. Now, to bring this full circle, I want to make sure that when we're, here on the Find Food Freedom podcast, that we are centering food freedom, that we're centering relationship with food and body image. And I think there's an opportunity to share lived experience in areas of life that maybe aren't exactly food freedom like focused, but it all ties in. So for example, I put a poll up on Instagram yesterday that said, which of these things do you want to hear episodes on related to food and body image, but look at these topics? And so I put up IVF and infertility, because for those of you who have followed along, or maybe you're newer to my page and you didn't know, but I've gone through 3 rounds of IVF. That's how we conceived our daughter, Sienna, who's now 15 months. And so I was like, okay, we could do IVF and infertility. We could do pregnancy or just actively trying to conceive and fertility. We could do postpartum. And then I was like, all right, let's actually, before all of this, let's talk dating and marriage, right? And like, which one of these 4 things are you interested in related to food, body image, movement? And what obstacles do you have in these areas related to food and movement and body image? And a whopping 60% voted for dating and marriage. And I thought that was so interesting. So that's where we're going to go eventually. And so I just put up another question box saying, all right, dating and marriage, you won. And within dating and marriage, what obstacles do you have? And there's hundreds and hundreds of answers coming through. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do a series on dating, marriage, and the obstacles that come along with that related to food and body, which there's a lot there. But today we're going to keep it general rapid fire because we had hundreds of answers from the other night question box of just what are your obstacles right now? What are you struggling with? So we're going to get into that. But before we do, I want to talk about a food freedom win of the week. And I'm going to use myself as an example, and I want to encourage you and use this as an opportunity to send me a direct message on Instagram right now. Open your phone and let me know at find.food.freedom. What is a food freedom win of the week for you? What's something that made you stop and say like, hell yes. Like, I'm so proud of myself. This moment in my life is easier or better, or I'm more present because I now have food freedom. So using myself as an example, I've been seeing so much shit on the internet about how processed food is bad for you and you shouldn't be eating processed food. And like, we could do a whole episode on that. But I want to use myself as an example. It's been a really tough week for a lot of different reasons that I will cover on a different podcast at a different date. And I put up a TikTok last night just saying, if you choose to eat processed foods and nourish yourself, that is health promoting. Because the amount of shit I see on the internet of people saying like processed foods are bad for you, when first of all, that statement has so much privilege to say that. But so I just did a quick video saying that, and I had a very delicious, it was my first time trying Trader Joe's quiche. It was a mushroom, spinach, onion quiche, and the crust was really good. Anyways, so I put on a nice show. I ate my quiche. I carried on living my life. And that I want to share with you and say, I recognize in that moment that that was a win for me, because I can promise you, Sam, 10 years ago would have been like, I'm not allowed to have this. This has too much salt. This is too many calories. This is whatever. And I was like, you know what? Put the baby down to bed, sit on the couch, enjoy a nice show, heat up my quiche, call it a night, and carry on living my life. And so that was a moment of food freedom for me. And I hope that you also have one that you want to share with me. So I want to encourage you, if you're thinking about your food freedom win of the week, to open up Instagram, DM me it. I screenshot a bunch of them, and I usually read your win of the week, like one of the listeners' wins of the week. But you girls had a crazy week and forgot to prepare. So I'm pulling one out of my own noggin today. All right, so let's get into rapid fire today. Reminder that I put up a shit ton of Q&A boxes on Instagram, and I've really truly came from a creativity drought where I'm like, what do I talk about? Meanwhile, there's so much to talk about. And so I put up a question box, and you guys have the best questions ever. So let's answer them. And instead of dedicating an entire podcast to one certain thing, let's just rapid fire it, baby, like one after the other. So just friendly reminder that this is for informational and educational purposes only. This is not a substitute for professional counseling. I know nothing about the people that submit these to me. So I can only answer them to the best of my ability, give a few tips and tricks and resources, and hopefully it'll help be a jumping off point of maybe where you can go or where you can start to dig in and get support. So first one here is someone that says, I want to have a healthy relationship with exercise, but I have trouble motivating myself. I love this question, this obstacle. I'm so happy this person brought this up. And first of all, I want to validate this. This is one of the most common things to hear. So you can assume pretty much anybody listening to this podcast, anybody on this page of Find Food Freedom has probably dieted in the past, right? That's why you're here, because you've dieted and you want to walk away from that, or you're interested in walking away from it and you want to make peace with food, body, movement. In order to make peace with movement and exercise, we have to give ourselves unconditional permission to rest. Now, not everyone has this experience, but the majority of people that we work with at Find Food Freedom, if they've dieted for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, during that time frame of dieting, it's often coupled with extreme exercise, over exercise, or using exercise as a form of punishment, calorie burn, pain, intentionally shrinking the body. So if you have used exercise as a form of punishment, it's really hard to motivate yourself to now do that said thing that you once saw as a form of punishment. Even if you're saying, okay, I want to move my body joyfully, but we can't just flip a switch. We can't just say, okay, exercise used to be punishment, calorie burn, and pain, but now it's joyful, right? Like, I wish it were that easy. But it takes a lot of unpacking. It takes a lot of unlearning. It takes a lot of rest and walking away from it. It takes really redefining what your beliefs are with it and building trust with yourself. So again, that's like one way I went with it first, but let's go this way. Let's say someone's saying, you know, I've started this repair. I feel like I have more of a healthy relationship with exercise. I understand it's not punishment. I find joy in it. After I do it, I'm glad I did it, but I'm still having trouble moving my body. First thing I would say is make a list. What are forms of movement that bring you joy? When you think about them, what's something like, oh, that would be fun. Like for some of us, we might be like yoga. For some of you, you might be like, I fucking hate yoga. That's fine too. Everybody's list is going to look different. So figure out what you would like. And then I want you to do like 0.00001% of that and show up for it. So let's say you like walking. We're not going to go walk 5 miles 5 days a week now. Could we walk 5 minutes a day? Whether that is literally going out your front door, walking 2.5 minutes away from your house and coming 2.5 minutes back, like making it so minuscule that it's like, I did that. And I like to use this analogy. I'm a big analogy person. I have people all the time say, I don't know what it is. I want to move my body. I feel better when I move my body. I just can't do it. And they don't trust themselves. And what that means, or what this is like, I want you to imagine that you have a friend that every week you guys set a coffee date and you're like, okay, every Thursday at 9 a.m., we are going to get coffee and you're going to meet at this coffee shop and you connect. And the first Thursday, you're there, you're so excited to see your friend and catch up. And she texts you, so sorry, I can't make it today. Something came up. And the first time it happens, you're like, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I hope you're okay. Like, it's okay. So then it's like, oh, I'm bummed. Like, she didn't show up. That's annoying, whatever. So then the next Thursday comes around and you're like, yes. Like, you text her like, hey, we're going to be there, right? And she's like, yes, we're going to do it. You get there, you're waiting for her. You get a text and she says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Something came up. I'm not going to be able to make it. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me? You said you were going to do this. You didn't show up. And like, you're like, you better be okay. Like, is everything okay? Right. And then the third Thursday in a row, you check in with her and you're like, okay, coffee shop, 9 a.m. Are you going to be there? She's like, yes, I'm going to be there. And then you get there. She's not there. And then you get a text that says, I'm not coming. And you're like, oh, you better be fucking kidding me. And like, you're not here. What the, like, because it's like, you said you were going to come. Like, don't you want to come? This, my friends, is what happens when we make or overcommit ourselves, tell ourselves we're going to do something, and then we don't do it. And then the dialogue turns into, you said you were going to do that. What the hell? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you show up? You're so lazy. See, I knew you weren't going to do it. And that negative dialogue fuels the rebellion of the action itself. So that is why it is so important to not set a unrealistic goal. Like, if walking is a joyful movement for you and you love it, we're not going from 0 to 5 times a week, 5 miles a day, because what's going to happen? We're not going to show up. We're not going to do it. And then the negative self-talk and the berating ourselves is going to kick in. So I want you to find movement that you enjoy, allow yourself to rest, and think of something that you can do so minuscule so you can start to show up and say, I did it. I'm building trust with myself. On this same topic here, the next one was, I'm injured and I can't exercise. Help. This is such a common struggle that I think people feel, is when they can't physically move their body. Let's say we have an ankle sprain or a knee sprain or a broken ankle or a broken toe or, whatever it is. And we can't move our body, or like back pain, right? Like, whatever it is, doesn't matter what the injury is. And we are not allowed to move our body. I cannot stress this enough, that the most productive thing that you can do is rest. Heal your body. And let me remind you that just because you are put on bed rest or you have an injury and you are not allowed to physically move in whatever capacity, your brain and body still need calories, aka energy, still need to be consistently fed, nourished, and hydrated. So this is something I see often with clients, is when they go through periods of injury, feeling like I can't eat, or I need to cut calories, or I need to eat less. We can still honor our bodies, listen to our hunger and fullness cues during periods of injury. And for the body to heal whatever your injury is, food, calories, and adequate nutrition are one of the most important aspects of healing an injury. So that is something I cannot stress enough. Keep fueling yourself, keep hydrating yourself, keep nourishing yourself. And please know that you don't need my permission. I'm no wizard, but I'm here to tell you that you have permission to rest. And it is the most productive thing that you can do when you need rest, and specifically when you are healing an injury. And I think it's really important to get those reminders in a world that tells us to go, go, go all the time. Whew. All right, next one. I have gained weight. I feel out of shape. I struggle to keep up with my kids. It makes me want to diet again. Ooh, so I want to sit with this one for a second. I want to validate the discomfort that I'm sensing from this comment. And I want to validate that for anyone. If you've noticed that your body has changed and it feels uncomfortable, or you feel discomfort, your pain, your discomfort is valid. And so I want to make that very, very clear right now with what I'm about to go into next, that we could just stop it there. And that could be my answer, is like, your pain, your discomfort is valid. And I want to go into this specific comment of, I want to keep up with my kids, and I'm struggling to do that. So instead of us scapegoating the body in this scenario and saying my body and the weight gain is the reason why I can't keep up with my kids, I want to turn this around from a neutral observer and say, okay, what is our goal here? We want to keep up with our kids. Okay, whatever age, I don't know what age these kids are. I don't know what their activities they like to do, but it sounds like these kids like to run around, because that's how most kids are. So we want to be able to run after our children, right? Running, not necessarily like long distance running, but running is an aerobic exercise, right? When is the last time that we have done any form of aerobic exercise? Now, the answer might be 5 years ago. Okay. If we have not done what we need in order to feel more comfortable doing something, is it our body, or is it because we haven't done something? And I use this example a lot with one of my clients. They went on vacation, and he was stressed about a long distance walk, and or this long hike, excuse me. And he was like, I'm really scared, Sammy, that I'm not going to be able to do this hike. So we talked about ways that we could prep for this vacation to be able to do this hike. And I said to him, I said, I would also need to do this. And remember, we're in also very different bodies, but I haven't done aerobic exercise and hiking of any sort. So in order to excel in something, we want to make sure we're supporting our body with that. So whether it's flexibility, range of motion, aerobic activity, right? So if we are struggling, let's say, to get up and down off of the floor to play with our kids, we don't need to start going to CrossFit. We don't need to start doing extreme exercise, but can we try, maybe when the kids go down for bed, getting down on the floor and standing up? So like 20 times or 5 times, right? Of down on the floor, pretend you're playing, get up. That in and of itself takes a squat, right? Or a lunge in order to get up, and using other furniture to prop ourselves up with the proper movement. So I think what happens is sometimes we can feel so much shame around discomfort, or around the size of our body, or around our inability to do something, where then it paralyzes us and we do nothing at all. And I want to encourage you, if it's playing with your kids, if it's getting up and down off the floor, if it's running after your kids, You don't need to start running marathons. You don't need to go get a gym membership. You don't need to do any of that. Start with something extremely small. And the more you practice that, the easier these things will get. And I also want to acknowledge, in a lot of the content pieces that I put out, that I'm coming from a perspective of thin privilege, right? And I acknowledge my privileges in these conversations, how it may seem easier for me to say something due to the size of my body. And so I have no idea what the size of this person's body is who wrote this comment in, but I want to validate that discomfort is real, right? Pain is real in the body. And so instead of shaming ourselves or our body size, can we get a form of weight neutral pain management? Can we go to a PT? Can we go to a personal trainer who can help us? Can we go to a physical therapist? Can we go to a chiropractor? Can we start aerobic movement? Can we start with getting up and down off the floor 5 times a day, or, whatever it is? Small things that are uncoupled from changing the size of our body that are going to help us reach the goals that we have, which in this case is playing with our kids and just being able to enjoy our current life. So this rapid fire was not very rapid fiery of me, because I really just used 3 and really went in depth on them. But what I like is that they kind of all were in the movement bucket, if you will, in the movement. I'm totally blanking on this word right now. This is just the week we are having. Movement topic. That's what we're gonna go with. My brain, there's nothing left between these ears, people. So this sounds like a good time to wrap this episode up, and just thank you for being here with me today. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I have a question that I've been dying to ask you, send me a DM, or just anytime I'm on Instagram and you see a question box pop up, throw it in there. I read every single one until I start getting thousands. Right now we're in the hundreds. So I read them all. I screenshot them all. You should see the screenshot folders on my phone. I'm going to have to get a new phone soon with the amount that is coming through. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for asking questions and staying curious. And if this was helpful to you and you're like, I want more information, I need to dig more into this, what you said really spoke to me today, then I really want to encourage you to go to findfoodfreedomresources.com. That's findfoodfreedomresources.com. And you're going to see everything there, from free masterclasses, our monthly membership, group coaching, one-on-one coaching. We have an array of services to support our clients. We are a team of registered dietitians and certified intuitive eating counselors. So if you are looking for professional support, if you feel like you're like, I listen to the podcast all the time, I engage with the content, I follow you on social, but I think I'm ready for more. I think I'm ready to take that step and work on healing my relationship with food and body image and movement, then I really want to encourage you to go to findfoodfreedomresources.com, take what serves you, leave the rest behind, and just thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So if you like today's episode and you want to see more, if you could please head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate, review, and subscribe. Let us know what you think of today's episode, and also what you want to see more of. Feel free to use that opportunity while you're reviewing to tell us what you want to see more of on this podcast. And I would also be really grateful if you just share this with a friend. If this was this message about movement was exactly what you wanted to hear today, please share it with someone who you think it would help. The more people that hear this message, the better. So thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you next week.